surprisingly, microtonal music is starting to get somewhat mainstream thanks to bands like Angie de Poitvin, who's blowing up right now, and of course bands like King Gizzard and Lizard Wizard, who have been doing it for a while now. Microtones have mostly been kind of a niche thing, especially with popular styles of music, so I'm kind of glad that there's some musicians really pushing that experimental side and trying to get some new sounds. Typically when you see people playing this type of music, especially on guitar, you'll see instruments that look like this. Guitars with tons and tons of frets, way more than a typical guitar like this one. So that begs the question, how was I able to play that stuff on this regular guitar? Well, I did not want to spend a ton of money on a brand new custom instrument just to play that type of music, so I just messed up the tuning on this guitar. So in this video, I want to explain how exactly I came about that tuning, what kind of notes that gets you, and some ways that you can use it. But first, I'm going to give you a quick crash course on microtones. So what exactly are microtones? The word microtone literally means like micro, small, tones, notes. They're basically the notes that exist within or in between the notes that we already know about. So typically, all of the music you hear, on Spotify, whatever streaming platform you use, is organized into 12 different notes. We call it 12-tone equal temperament. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then we reach what's called the octave. The octave is essentially the same notes, but higher. So when I say 12-tone equal temperament or 12 tet, it just basically means the space between here and here. There are 12 different notes between this space. Many microtonal musicians will mess around with different tuning systems, not tuning as in like guitar tuning, but tuning systems as in how you tune each individual note that you're playing with in between the octave space. So you could have, 5 tet or 13 tet or 15 tet or whatever number you want. And basically what it means, if I took, let's just say 13 tet, it would basically mean within the space of my open string and the 12th fret, which again is the octave, there would be 13 frets that are equally spaced sonically, rather than just 12. 27 tet, there would be 27 frets equally spaced from the open string to here. So when you see those guitars that have those extra frets, typically, especially with Engine de Poitvin and King Gizzard, they typically use what's called quarter steps, which are basically just cramming a fret right in between each of these existing frets. So essentially that gets us 24 tet, because if we have 12 frets and we just cram a fret in between, doubling that number, 12 times 2 is 24. So for the most part in this video, I'm going to be talking about 24 tet. I won't really be exploring any of the other tuning systems because I would need a special guitar for that. But for 24 tet, we can just tune a regular guitar in this really weird tuning and it works. And I'm going to show you how that works right now. So here's my tuner just to show you what it should look like when tuning in this tuning. So the first string is going to be E, just regular E. Now the next string, what's normally the A string, is going to be a G quarter flat. What that means, it's going to be the note that's in between F sharp and G. So basically you want to find F sharp and then just tune it up all the way until your tuner can't tell whether it's F sharp or G. There, you see how it bounces back and forth like that? Yep. In general, it'll just show you either the high end of F sharp or the low end of G, and that's how you know you're pretty much in the right mark. Next string is going to be D, just regular D natural. Next string is going to be an F quarter flat. So that's the note right in between E and F. Right about there should be good. Next is B natural. Good. And then next is a D quarter flat. So that's going to be in between C sharp and D. Right about there. So this tuning effectively gives us 24 different notes. As far as what to call these notes, like for example, so we know this is G, this is G sharp. I didn't get a lot of consensus as to specifically what you would call it. Some people would call this a quarter sharp. Some would call it a half sharp because it's literally halfway between G and G sharp. What I've been doing is just calling it quarter sharp, and then we have G sharp, and then this would be like a 3/4 sharp. And then after that is A. And if we go backwards, it'd be A quarter flat, A flat, then A 3/4 flat, then G. And being able to do those quarter steps is what Angie de Poitvin likes to do a lot with their riffs. If you notice their riffs, they tend to be very chromatic and involve a lot of those quarter steps. Okay, so that's one thing you could do. What are some other things? Well, I was interested in trying to figure out chords using this tuning, and the first thing I did was I have 3 strings that are like, you know, typical 12-tone equal temperament, and then I have 3 strings that are quarter steps. So I figured, what if I just alternate between those 2 sets of strings? If I do a chord progression like this, it gives me that kind of outside, unusual sound, but it's kind of like I'm going into the quarter step zone and then I'm going back into 12-tone equal temperament zone, and it just gives you kind of this jarring kind of feeling. And then this would allow me to, of course, improvise over it as well. Now that's cool and all, but when you're doing that, it kind of just seems like you're still in 12-tone equal temperament. You're just kind of shifting into a different tuning every few seconds. So one of the really big things I wanted to do with this as well, can I just figure out chords that just combine the regular notes with the microtonal notes or the quarter step notes? So I started messing around with different chords, and they of course sound out of tune when you first hear them. Of course, there's a lot of experimenting you have to do and chasing different shapes, but once you figure out a few, there's some pretty nice sounding ones. Now, I have no idea what any of those chords are, but to my ear, they sounded kind of interesting, so I just memorized some of them. Now, another thing you can do, you can actually learn some scales that use some of these quarter steps. There are actually some scales that exist that use these notes. The most common ones that I hear that King Gizzard tends to use a lot are maqams. Now, I believe there are Arabic maqams and there's also Turkish maqams. I'm not going to pretend like I know anything about traditional Arabic or traditional Turkish music, so don't ask me about that. I think it's also worth mentioning that when you're learning these maqams, yeah, they are great tools to give you some notes to work with. We use microtones as a way to explain to us who have learned, you know, Western music theory, how those scales work. But if you're actually talking to someone who is playing traditional Turkish music using these scales, to them, most likely, those scales are not microtonal. Those scales are just the correct notes that you play. So you probably don't want to talk to somebody who plays that traditional music about how they use microtones in that music, because they're probably just going to look at you like you're crazy. But from what I could look up online, one of the scales is this. Yes, we have to jump around a lot and kind of map out where these notes are. But once you memorize it, it's actually not super hard to play, and you could eventually just start making up riffs using these scales. It's also really useful to be able to take that through multiple octaves. So for example, try to map out as high as you can this whole scale. And another reason why I like this tuning specifically is that it's actually pretty easy to figure out your octaves. So if I figure out something that sounds cool, like out here, I could easily just play that up here and up here. So it's really easy to just kind of navigate all the octaves. Once you play in this tuning for a while, you could really come up with a lot of outside things that actually sound kind of cool. So that's what I was able to come up with so far with this weird tuning. I'm having a lot of fun with it, and I definitely want to encourage more experimentation, especially in the age of AI music, where AI is kind of just taking all the typical stuff we hear in music. So I like that a lot of artists are starting to go outside of the box and try some new interesting things that we've never heard before. If you want to look into other microtonal artists, other than, of course, Engine de Poitvin and King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, there's an artist that's actually getting pretty big on TikTok. Maddie Ashman, I believe is her name. She makes a lot of cool microtonal stuff. And of course, I've also been listening to the artist Sevish. He makes electronic music for many years. He's been doing it for a while. But he also makes microtonal style of music. But that's all I got for today. Hope you enjoy. Stay tuned for my future song that's going to feature microtones.